Think about the last game you played. You probably noticed the characters, the environments, maybe even the graphics, but you probably didn't think about the hundreds of tiny light sources making that world feel believable. Street lamps, candles, campfires, ceiling lights, computer monitors. In Unreal Engine 5, one of the most common tools used to create those everyday light sources is the point light. In this video, I'll explain what point lights actually are, how they work, and the settings that actually matter. And one quick thing before we jump in, I'm experimenting lately with a new way of teaching these Unreal Engine concepts through interactive web tools alongside the PDF guides I've been making. I've put together a point light explainer that you can try out for free, and I would genuinely love your feedback on whether you find it more useful than the PDF or if you would rather have both. You'll find both links in the description. Now let's see how point lights actually work. A point light simulates a light source that emits a light equally in every direction. The easiest way to think about is this. It's a light bulb. Imagine placing a bare bulb in the middle of a room. Light spreads forward, backward, left, right, up and down. A point light behaves exactly the same way. Unlike directional light, which acts like the sun and shines from one direction, a point light radiates outward in every direction from a single point. Its position matters, but unlike the sun, its rotation doesn't matter at all. You can rotate it however you want. Nothing changes. Only its position and settings affects the scene. And if you haven't seen my directional light tutorial yet, I recommend checking that out after this video because these two lights solve completely different problems in Unreal Engine. Before we start placing point lights in our scenes, it's helpful to understand how light behaves in the real world. Imagine you are standing in a completely dark room and you turn on a single light bulb. The light doesn't travel only toward the objects you are looking at, instead it spreads outward in every direction, forming an ever-growing sphere of light. Now here's the important part. The farther the light travels from its source, the weaker it becomes. Objects close to bulb appear bright, and objects farther away receives less light. And eventually the light becomes so weak that it no longer has any noticeable effect. This gradual loss of brightness is called the light fall off, and it's one of the main reasons scenes feel realistic instead of flat. In Unreal Engine, the point light simulates this same behavior. Its intensity controls how bright the light starts, and its attenuation radius controls how far the light is allowed to influence the scene. And together, those two settings determine how your light feels inside the environment. Once you understand these two simple ideas, light spreading outward and gradually become weaker, most point light settings suddenly become much easier to understand. Point lights are used whenever a real-world light source shines in all directions. Things like desk lamps, ceiling lights, candles, lanterns, campfires, street lamps, magic crystals, or even glowing sci-fi machinery. In game development, these are often called practical lights, meaning the light actually exists inside your scene, and point lights are one of the most common ways to create them. And if you want to learn more about basic lights in Unreal Engine, I also made a complete lighting guide where I explain what every major light type does when you create a new level. I'll link that below. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is trying to light an entire room with one massive point light. The result? Everything becomes evenly bright, shadows disappear, and the scene loses depth. Professional lighting usually works differently. Instead of one huge light, you often use several smaller practical lights that work together. The goal isn't to make everything visible, the goal is to guide the player's attention and create atmosphere. Alright, let's actually add a point light to our scene. First, go up to the top toolbar inside the Unreal Engine, click on Quick Add, then go to Lights and select Point Light. Once you click it, a point light will appear in your level. You will see a small light icon in the viewport and a sphere around it. That sphere represents the area this light affects. So let's look at the settings you will actually use. We have intensity. Intensity controls how bright the light is. Higher values create stronger illumination, brighter highlights, and stronger reflections. Lower values create softer and more subtle lighting. More brightness doesn't automatically mean better lighting, because balance matters here the most. Next we have attenuation radius. This controls how far the light reaches. Think of it as the size of the light's influence. Small radius is great for candles and table lamps, and large radius is better for bigger spaces. A common mistake is making this radius far too large. When light reaches everywhere, your scene loses realism. Next, we are moving to the light color and temperature. Light color completely changes the mood of a scene. Warm lighting feels cozy, comfortable, and natural. And cool lighting feels sterile, modern, sometimes even unsettling. But instead of manually picking colors in a color wheel, I recommend enabling temperature. This lets you work using real-world Kelvin values. A warm lamp might be around 2700 Kelvin, a candle is even warmer. Daylight is much cooler, and for me this is a very straightforward and easy way to create a believable lighting, so don't skip these temperature options. Next we have shadows. Although we talk about lights, the shadows are what give object shape and depth. Without them, a scene often feels flat. But not every point light needs to cast shadows. Background decorative lights can often have shadows disabled to improve performance, but your important practical lights usually benefit from having them enabled. Next we have a source radius. This setting is often overlooked. Source radius controls the apparent size of the light source. Small sources create sharper shadows, and larger sources create softer, more natural shadows. Sometimes increasing this value slightly can make lighting instantly look more realistic. One of the biggest advantages of Unreal Engine 5 is Lumen. Lumen allows point lights to contribute realistic bounce lighting. Imagine placing a warm orange lamp next to a white wall. Without realistic global illumination, only the direct light is visible. With Lumen, that warm light bounces off the wall and softly illuminates nearby surfaces. The result feels much closer to real life. Your point light provides the source, and Lumen helps spread that light naturally throughout the environment. Point lights also work beautifully alongside directional lights and skylights. The sun lights the world, and the sky softens the shadows, and the point lights bring life to individual spaces. To learn more about all these lights and how they work together, you can check out the lighting playlist below. Let's run through a simple workflow that many artists use. Step 1 is to place the practical light where it naturally belongs. Step 2 is to adjust the attenuation radius, so you only light what needs to be lit. Step 3 is to adjust intensity and make sure important objects stand out. Step 4 is choose a realistic temperature. And step 5, let the Lumen handle the natural bounce lighting. And that's it, keep it simple, because you can always add complexity later. Point lights are one of the most important tools in Unreal Engine. They help create atmosphere, focus, realism, and storytelling. If your scene needs a believable artificial light source, there's a good chance a point light is exactly what you are looking for. If you want to actually understand Unreal Engine lighting instead of just scoping settings, make sure to subscribe, because this is a part of a complete lighting series where we break everything down step by step. And if you want a quick reference while you're working inside Unreal Engine, you can download the free point light PDF guide below. It includes all the important settings, when to use them, and the common mistakes to avoid. Also, if you are still building your foundation in UE5 lighting, I recommend watching the directional light and skylight tutorials next. You'll find everything linked in the description.